everyone. So I am still trying to get stuff sorted for the next Let's Play video, which will be a new installment in the Let's Play series for Final Fantasy XII Azalea Gates, but I just wanted to do this really quick one here. Just to show how disrespectful and disregarding of actual history those that are pro-Hamas are, because clearly I am going to take this with a bit of skepticism, but this is an article from BBC News. These Confederate statues caused U.S. protests, knocked down very center of a new art show. This is an article from Regan Morris reporting from, where else? Los Angeles. So take it with a grain of salt. The article reads, a massive monument of General Robert E. Lee that once sparked riots in the Virginia city of Charlottesville is now a melted down pile of bronze artfully displayed in a Los Angeles museum. Next to the sculpture are barrels of toxic slag left over from the melting process. Funny how they decided to add quotation marks there to that word. Slag is an actual word, like skag. Anyway, around the corner there is a massive graffitied equestrian statue of Lee and Thomas Stonewall Jackson, the two most famous Confederate generals in the U.S. Civil War, which the Confederacy lost in 1865 and ultimately led to the end of slavery in the United States. Now I'm going to take this next bit with a grain of salt and everything. And also, please let me know if there are any true historical records, because yes, I am reading from a news article here from a very biased media outlet, so I am having a bit of skepticism here. Anyway, the article goes on. They fought for slavery, said curator Hamza Walker, who has been working for 8 years to acquire and borrow from massive monuments amid lawsuits and the logistical challenges of moving tens of thousands of pounds of bronze and granite to Los Angeles. The idea of lionizing those figures, what did they believe? They believed in white supremacy. Period. See, this is where we can all see clear as day this Hamza Walker person's own bias. This man is either clearly Antifa or he's been just pro-Hamas in general. Either way, there are some overlap between those two. Coming at a time when President Donald Trump is ordering statues and paintings of Confederate generals to be reinstalled, the roaring narratives of American history are at the heart of monuments, which opens 23rd of October at the Brick and at the Geffen Contemporary Museum and at the Geffen Contemporary at the Museum of Contemporary Art. And so there's only, 3 more days of reading? Probably 2. I don't know. I'm not living in the States. Could be a different time zone. I don't know. The 18 decommissioned Confederate monuments are displayed alongside pieces of contemporary art. The massive graffitied statue of Lyndon Jackson, for example, stands next to a giant replica sculpture of the General Lee car from the iconic TV show The Dukes of Hazzard. And here we have Jelaine Schmidt, an activist pictured here, who campaigned for the statue of Lee to be removed from Charlottesville. Standing in front of a sculpture, the statue has become. I'm just gonna say it, even amongst queer communities here, there is a mental illness. And I'm sick and tired of people who are pro-Hamas, who are Antifa, constantly being allowed to be on platforms so they can lie to innocent people and radicalize them. Again, I know I repeat myself here, but I have been calling for the arrest and deplatforming of Hassan Piker long before Collargate was even a thing. And this is just one of the many reasons why. It's because these people do not care about true progress. They do not care about anyone other than themselves. These people are violent, they are mentally unwell, and clearly, they want to kill people because they believe of it nothing more than a sick game and blame you for being intolerant to other people's emotions. Look, I understand that racism does exist, and I like everything in this world, including racism. But it is, of course, in moderation. Hang on. Google's being weird. The point I'm trying to get here is these people obviously just do not care about history unless it's some jaded worldview that they have. Now, Tectone, the GOAT, favorite other streamer, I'm the GOAT. Well, more GOAT creature, but there are two. Let's not get into semantics. But yeah, Tectone made a video also talking about people who are on the internet or just exist in general that lie. So I'm gonna leave a link to that video in the description. But yeah, let's continue with this article. President Trump has often spoken of Lee's general bravery. Of General Lee's bravery. Sorry. And he and others have criticized the removal and toppling of Confederate monuments, saying it's, say it with me now, revisionist history. While nationalists, I can't speak today. While nationalists marched in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017, triggering deadly classes to keep the statue from being removed. How is it triggering deadly classes? Oh wait, the Antifa pro-Hamas crowd. To keep the statue from being removed. In the aftermath, similar statues sparked classes in cities across the U.S. Under historical revision, our nation's legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness is reconstructed as inherently racist, sexist, offensive, oppressive, or otherwise irredeemably flawed, President Trump wrote in a March executive order calling for paintings and monuments to be reinstalled. But Mr. Walker, as in Hamza Walker, says putting Lee and Jackson on pedestals, even though they lost the war, is, in Mr. Walker's eyes, racist and promotes the lost cause ideology that argues the Civil War was a noble cause for the states' right and not about slavery. And it continues with a quote here saying, states' right to do what? The reason for the Civil War was slavery. Yeah, he said, adding that it perpetuates the idea that the South was a noble victim and that slavery wasn't so terrible. If you could distance them from slavery, right, then you could portray them as heroes, even though they lost the war and were on the wrong side of history, fighting for something that was morally repugnant, he says. Well, Mr. Hamza Walker, You clearly need a straitjacket because what I see as revisionist history and clear indictment to bring back slavery, thanks to Keir Starmer, in my own home country, as something you like is morally repugnant to me. And to everyone else who clearly has functioning brain cells, regardless how many of them we have. Then we have the centerpiece of the show, which is the unmanned drone. A completely reconstructed sculpture of Stonewall Jackson by artist Kara Walker, who transformed the horse and its rider heading into battle into a headless, zombie-like creature. The Southern vernacular would be a haint, which would be a ghostly form. Kara Walker, who is not related to Hamza Walker, told the BBC, and asked how she describes the work. It's an attempt to rethink the legacies of Stonewall Jackson as a mythology, as a mythological holder of white supremacy. You know, these people talk about white supremacy all the time, but what about black supremacy or Hamas supremacy? These people do not care. That's why they don't talk about it. They don't care about you. They don't care about common sense. They don't care if you point out that the fact that everyone's allowing the death of Jewish people to be something that people need to mourn for in memorials, thus many were destroyed for those victims of the October 7th attack that didn't make it, were brutally destroyed in the UK, may I add. Just letting you know to all our overseas viewers in the States. Well, I say our, I'm the only one running this channel. My mind is just, whee. But yeah. Most of the monuments on display will be returned to the cities and towns they've been borrowed from when the show closes in May. But Kara Walker's sculpture will need to find a new home. Well, no shit! And the bronze ingots from the melted down Lee sculpture will be transformed again into a new work of art. The statue was removed in 2021 and melted in 2023 after the Charlottesville City Council voted to donate the statue to the Jefferson School. African American Heritage Center. It's a toxic representation of history. This lost cause narrative, and we're purifying it, said Delane Smith, an activist and professor who was there when the statue came down in Charlottesville, and when it was melted at a secret foundry. She came to see it in its new form in Los Angeles. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to judge this bitch very, very harshly because clearly she isn't giving any constructive criticism to the history of her own country here. Because, bitch, clearly, if you're gonna be an activist, you can't be a professor either. It just doesn't work. It shouldn't have even been put in that fucking sentence. I'm not even gonna finish this article. It's all just pandering towards pro-Hamas and Antifa. It's filth. All of this. The destruction and vandalization of historical monuments, the complete and utter disrespect and actual racism going on in this world. And trust me, I could go on about Tritz and the whole Collargate situation, but I think there are other creators that are doing that very well. And I would just probably butcher the whole thing. I'm not saying that to be disrespectful to my audience, but yeah, there are far too many things this world is going through. We are definitely going through some dark times. I'm just gonna say it. Autistic people are fine. Hell, I'm diagnosed with autism and have ADHD tendencies. But I think when it comes to people who are Antifa or just pro-Hamas in general, I'm sorry. We need to bring back actual mental health asylums. Those are the kind of asylums I want. I want institutes where people are locked up and put in straitjackets because of this illness, this mental illness. That is what all of this is. These people who want to revise history for their own disgusting narrative, they are neurodefective. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna do for now.